A very good afternoon to all of you. Today we are going to start our subject financial management, and in this we are going to discuss the topic cost of capital. And this is our lecture 10. And in this we are going to define what is the cost of capital, how we are going to calculate it, what is the effect of cost of capital and all that. First of all, I am going to start from the very basic of meaning of cost of capital. According to Milton H. Spencer, cost of capital is the minimum rate of return which a firm require as a condition for taking investment. Means cost of capital एक वो minimum return है जो आपको expect करना पड़ता है, एक firm expect करती है इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए कि अगर उसे इन्वेस्टमेंट करना है तो इतना कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल तो उसे मिनिमम रेट ऑफ रिटर्न तो उसे चाहिए उसकी कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल के अकॉर्डिंग या Solomon ने डिफाइन किया कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल इज अ मिनिमम रिक्वायर्ड रेट ऑफ अर्निंग और कट ऑफ रेट फॉर कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर. That means if you want to do capital expenditure, you need to get it minimum return, which is termed as cost of capital. Now, how you can measure the cost of capital or what are the costs involved in arranging the funds? Actually, we are arranging the funds through different sources, and these different sources are either it may be from debt or equity or preferential or retained earning. So, how we can measure it, we will define it in our next coming slides. So, measurement of cost of capital involves measurement of a specific cost, and second is computation of combined cost or composite cost. Or another word, we can say the weighted average cost. So, measurement of a specific cost includes cost from major sources such as what are the different sources of cost are cost of debt, cost of equity, cost of preferential, cost of retained earning. Means the different source of funding have some cost. That's why we are defining it as cost of debt. Because debt is a source of funding, debt, equity, preferential, retained earning, all these are the source of funding. And now here we are going to understand what are the costs which are involved in arranging all these funds. Next is, actually when we are going to arrange the funds, we have to consider the cost before making arrangements, the decision whether we are going to opt for retained earning, whether we are going to opt for equity or debt. It is totally based on the factors which we have to consider while deciding the cost of capital of each source. Now, first factor, which is the influencing factor, is risk-free interest rate. Risk-free interest rate means that interest rate depends upon the supply and demand consideration in financial market for long-term funds. Means risk-free interest rate means such type of risk which is such type of interest rate that is free from risk. You are not scared enough कि वो आपको इतना रिटर्न मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा, वो चीज़ आपकी एकदम से फ्री है, आप उसमें कोई आपको टेंशन लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. Next thing is business risk. Now what is business risk? Business risk, it is related to the response of the firm earning before interest and tax. How much you are earning, it totally depends upon your response towards the various opportunities you are having in your hands, and according to that we are going to calculate the EBIT. And EBIT is directly refers to the sales revenue. The next is financial risk. Means the risk that is associated with the business is business risk, and the financial risk refer to the risk that generated due to the cost of capital or due to the financial decisions. That is financial risk. It is a type of risk which can affect the cost of capital of the firm. When we are considering the cost of capital for the firm, the financial risk is the important factor which we have to consider. Other consideration are liquidity and marketability, that is considered as vital feature for considering the cost of capital. Now we are going to move on next slide. That is importance of cost of capital, why we are making it so much important while considering the investment decision or while deciding the cost of while deciding the capital structure of any firm. As determination of the COC is very important in the area of financial management. Determination जो होती है cost of capital की वो बहुत important होती है financial management के केस में, और बहुत सारे डिसीजन है जो डायरेक्टली इन्फ्लुएंस होते हैं कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल से. जैसे कि कैपिटल बजटिंग में अगर आपको डिसीजन लेना है, बजटिंग कैपिटल बजटिंग डिसाइड्स हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू सेलेक्ट द इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑप्शंस इन विच वी हैव टू मेक इन्वेस्टमेंट. हम डिफरेंट ऑप्शंस हैं हमारे पास कैसे हम बजटिंग करेंगे, कैसे हम फंड्स को इन्वेस्टमेंट करेंगे, वो सारी चीजें हम कैपिटल बजटिंग में देखते हैं। उसमें एक बहुत बड़ी हेल्प करता है कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल। Next is capital structure decision. While, as I already told you, that while we are deciding the capital structure, that is the combination of debt and equity, so we have to take decision regarding that according to the cost of capital, because it's totally different. The preference of arrangements of capital structure is different from one business to another. If you are having regular income as a source, so in that case you are very much interested in arranging the source of debt एज योर इन्वेस्टमेंट फॉर योर इन्वेस्टमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटी कि आप डेप्थ का ऑप्शन लेना चाहेंगे। लेकिन अगर आपके पास रेगुलर इनकम नहीं है, यू आर डूइंग सम सीजनल टाइप ऑफ बिजनेस, इन दैट केस आप इक्विटी में ज़्यादा प्रेफर करेंगे, क्योंकि आपके डेप्थ की ऑब्लिगेशंस आप टाइम से पूरी नहीं कर पाएंगे बिकॉज यू डोंट हैव रेगुलर सोर्स ऑफ इनकम। And next one is dividend policy decision. Now, what is dividend policy? Dividend means the return which you have to pay to your investors, to your shareholders. And dividend policy must be according to dividend policy influenced by so many factors. Dividend policy बहुत सारे factors से influenced होती है, जैसे कि आपके business की regular आपका business किस तरह का है, आपके business में को कितना time हो गया है, आपके कितना किस level पे आप work करते हैं, क्या आपकी source of income है, इस तरह से आप इन्वेस्टमेंट आपके हाथ में कितने और फ्यूचर में इन्वेस्टमेंट प्लान्स कितने हैं, तो इट्स टोटली डिपेंड्स अपॉन। तो आपकी पॉलिसी उसके अकॉर्डिंग ही होगी, उसके अकॉर्डिंग ही आप डिसीजन लेते हैं। लेकिन जब आप डिविडेंड पॉलिसी डिसाइड कर रहे हैं, इन दैट केस COC, कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल, प्ले अ वेरी वाइटल रोल बिकॉज यू हैव टू कंसिडर दिस पॉइंट आल्सो। Next is helpful in evaluation of financial efficiency of top management. Actually, top management take the important decision related to the investment and so many things. And these are the tools through which the top management decide whether we have to make investment or we have to refuse that particular project. That's why we are saying that it is helpful in evaluation of financial efficiency of top management, because according to these data or according to this information, they are going to take right decision at the right time. Next one is helpful in comparative analysis of various sources of income. When we are going to make a comparative analysis, means we are not able to find out the source of income as this one is good because I like it, and this one is not good because I didn't like it. Because we actually we have to find out the reasons why we are accepting this and why we are rejecting this. अगर हम ये बोलते हैं कि कॉस्ट ऑफ हमारे लिए इक्विटी सोर्स से फंड्स को अरेंज करना हमारे बिजनेस के लिए राइट नहीं है, सो यू हैव टू गिव रीजंस फॉर दैट। आपको वो डिफाइन करना होगा। तो हमें कंपैरेटिव एनालिसिस ऑफ डिफरेंट सोर्सेज, वेरियस सोर्सेज ऑफ फाइनेंस का करना है। सो इन दैट केस कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टूल अकॉर्डिंग टू व्हिच वी कैन गिव अ कंपैरिजन। हम यहाँ पे इसे कंपेयर कर सकते हैं। नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू मूव ऑन नेक्स्ट स्लाइड because we are talking about cost of capital. So here we are dividing it, or we are defining the components of cost of capital. Different components क्या होते हैं cost of capital के? Cost of capital के components में cost of debt, cost of preferential, cost of equity and cost of retained earning आता है। The first is cost of debt. So measurement of cost of capital. अगर आपको measurement करना है cost of capital का, so you have to measure a combination of all cost of equity and cost of debt. And you can also calculate weight of equity and weight of debt. So the formula is just like, or you can explain, you can understand with this slide. The cost of equity is cost of equity include risk-free rate plus risk premium, and cost of debt risk-free rate plus default spread, and along with that one minus tax rate. This is all about the mechanism of computing the cost of capital. Next is what is cost of equity. Cost of equity shares. Actually, equity shares are those shares which provides special rights to your investors that they can participate in important decisions. They are having the right of equity holders. So that's why we are saying that these shares are the owners fund. These shares provide us owners fund. Now, how we are going to calculate the cost of equity? For this, we are using a very common model, that is CAPM, capital asset pricing model. And this cost of equity is defined in term KE. It is denoted by KE, and KE equal to cost of equity. And we are calculating here the cost of equity by using the CAPM model. And CAPM model K equal to RF plus beta RM minus RF. Now what is RF? RF means risk-free rate of return. Risk-free rate of return means that much return on which the risk is free. Means you don't need to panic on. Next is beta. Beta means risk and RM means market expected return. What we can expect from the market, it is market expected return. So what are the advantage of equity shares? In this, we are having high return, easily transferable. The advantage of equity shares are these share can be easily transferable, these share can be easily liquidated, right to vote, right to choose the board of directors. Equity shareholders have the right to oppose any of the decision taken by the board of directors because they are the holders of the company. Disadvantage of equity share are high risk in most cases, less privilege given to the equity shareholders. Next one is preferential. Now, what is preferential? As the name suggests, some preference is given to these shareholders. That's why we are saying that preferential. Meaning of preferential. Preference shares are those which have two preferences over equity shares. Equity share के comparison में इनके पास दो preferences होती हैं. कौन सी preferences होती हैं? First one is preference as to payment of dividend. अगर कंपनी के पास ऑप्शन है, कंपनी को डिविडेंड पे करना है, कंपनी को रिटर्न देना है कैपिटल पे, तो वो सबसे पहले वो प्रेफरेंस शेयर होल्डर्स को प्रेफर करेंगे. एंड आफ्टर दैट इफ समथिंग रेजिड्यू then they are going to distribute it to the equity shareholders, otherwise not. In second case, preference has to return of capital. Return of capital in the event of winding up of a company. जब एक company wind up होती है, in that case also, if the company has to give money back at the time of winding up, they have to give capital back. So in that case also, the preference shares are considered as first one. उन्हें preference दी जाती है. That's why they are known as preference share. Next is cost of preference share. Now, how we are going to estimate the cost of preference share? So this formula we are going to estimate the cost of preference share. Just like example, a firm has issued preference share of ₹100 each, generating a proceed of 1 lakh. The dividend rate is 14%. The preference share will be redeemed after 10 years. Rotation cost is about 5%. Rotation cost means cost involved in issuance. Determine the cost of preference share. Okay, so the formula is KP equal to D plus P minus net proceeds upon N, E plus net proceeds upon 2. So in this, D is dividend to be paid equal to 14% of dividend to be paid on amount that is generated from the proceed 1 lakh. So the 14% of 1 lakh is 14,000. P equal to principal to be paid to the creditors. The principal is to be paid to the creditor at the time of redemption of debenture is 1 lakh. And net proceed is 95,000 because they have to give 5% rotation charge. That's why 95,000 and equal to 10. So in this way, we can calculate the cost of that. Next is advantage. What are the advantage which this source have? These yield fixed rate of return. Means after a particular fixed rate of return, after a fixed percentage, we are free enough that we can use the extra remaining part of our income for any purposes, for investment and other. And the preference is given compared to equity shareholders. Preference दी जाती है equity shareholders के comparison में. Preference distributing while distributing the dividend once the company is dissolved. जब distribute दोनों condition में अभी हमने discuss किया था कि जब आपको पैसा देना होगा वापस, in that case also you are going to consider it first, and at the time of giving the dividend, in that case also you have to give the first preference. It is a hybrid instrument having some of the characteristics of debenture and some of the characteristics of equity shares. Hybrid instrument वो होता है जिसमें combination होता है, दो अलग-अलग चीजों के combination होते हैं. तो इसमें ये कैसे कहा जा सकता है कि debenture और equity का एक combination है. Disadvantage क्या है? They do not provide the investors with any of the voting right. They didn't provide investors voting right. Next thing is, if the company get huge profit, then they won't get any extra bonus. जैसे कि हमने अभी बताया था एडवांटेज में कि फिक्स रेट ऑफ रिटर्न के बाद वो किसी भी चीज के लिए लायबल नहीं है. तो कंपनी अगर बड़ा प्रॉफिट अर्न करती है, कंपनी की अर्निंग बहुत हाई है, तो एक पर्टिकुलर कॉस्ट के बाद उनका कोई राइट नहीं बनता कि दे आर गोइंग टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट दे आर गोइंग टू गेट द प्रॉफिट. Next is method of redemption of preferential. Now, what are the different methods of redemption of preference share? Proceeds of fresh issue of shares. We can we can redeem the fresh issue of shares. Next is capitalization of undistributed profit or reserve. We can use the undistributed profit or reserves like through capitalization method. And next one is we can apply both the situations. First one and second one, we can apply both the methods. That is proceed of fresh issue of shares and capitalization of undistributed profit. These are the methods. Now next is cost of debt. Now what is cost of debt? Actually, cost means the expenses which we have to bear, and debt means on debt is considered as liability for us because we have to pay after a particular period of time. So cost of debt capital means the cost that is associated with the amount of in the form of interest that is paid on currently outstanding debt. Is the cost which we have to pay for using these funds, and it is denoted by KD, capital K, small d, cost of debt. And the formula for cost of debt is equal to I 1 minus tax rate. I means interest and 1 minus tax rate. Now cost of debt can be defined as cost of irredeemable debt. If you're going to issue the debt issued at premium or discount, in that case the cost of irredeemable debt will be calculated as KD equal to 1 minus T into I upon net proceed. And K equal to K stands for cost of capital, T stands for tax rate, and I equal to annual interest rate to be paid to the creditors. Now interest rate आपको pay करना है creditors को. Next is net proceeds means net proceed equal to total amount raised by the company by issuing the debenture. What you have raised by issuing the debenture is your net proceeds. So in case of par, it is equal to the par value. Par means at same value. Discount means at less than par value. For example, if you are going to take value of something is 100, so 100 is the par value. And if you are going to issue your debenture of that less than 100, that means you are giving the discount. And if you are at 105, that means it is considered as premium. So in case of par, it is equal to the par value. In case of discount, it is less than par value. In case of premium, it is more than par value. Next is cost of debenture. Now, cost of debt or debenture, cost of redeemable debt. Cost of redeemable debt means those debt that has to be redeemed after a particular period of time. So in the previous case, we have assumed that the bond are maturing and thus are continuously going on. In case the bonds mature after the particular certain period of time, then it is called redeemable debt. जिसे हमें redeem करना होता है वो redeemable debt होता है. तो redeemable debt की calculation कैसे होती है? KD before tax equal to I plus P minus net proceed upon N, P plus net proceed upon Q. I equal to annual interest rate payment. Net proceed equal to total amount raised by the company by issuing the debenture. P equal to par value of the debenture, and N equal to maturity period of the bond. These are this is the way through which we are going to calculate the cost of irredeemable debenture before tax at par, premium, or discount. KD equal to I upon NP into 100. Cost of irredeemable debenture after tax issued at par, premium, or discount. KD equal to I upon NP into 100. In this after tax, we have to mention 1 minus T, 1 minus tax rate. And next, cost of redeemable debenture before tax. Redeemable debenture. First, we are discussing irredeemable debenture. Now we are talking about redeemable debenture. So in redeemable debenture, KD equal to 1 plus I plus 1 upon N, P minus NP upon 1 upon 2, P plus NP. So cost of redeemable debt after tax issued at par, premium, or discount. In that case, KD equal to 1 I plus 1 upon N, P minus NP into 1 minus T, 1 upon 2, P plus NP. Here, in this way, we are going to calculate the cost of irredeemable debenture and redeemable debenture. NP, I already discussed what is NP. Now, what are the advantages of that? advantage of that means interest is tax deductible. So we are having tax deduction in this. So the interest which we are going to give, we can get the deduction out of it, lowering the effective cost of debt. It lower down the cost of your debt. And next one is debt holders are limited to a fixed return. Debt holders are limited to an extent fixed return. So stakeholders do not have to share profit. In that case, they are limited to the extent. That's why the stakeholders are free. They are not an intention के अगर extra profit हो जाएगा तो they will share the profit. The business does exceptionally well. अगर business बहुत अच्छे से well grow कर रहा है तो यहाँ पे जो debt holder है उन्हें हम एक fixed return देने के बाद हम उन्हें अलग कर देंगे. Means उनका काम खत्म हो गया. एंड जो रिमेनिंग पोर्शन होगा प्रॉफिट का वो डिस्ट्रीब्यूट हो जाएगा स्टॉक होल्डर्स में. लेकिन अगर वो डेप्थ होल्डर नहीं होते, अगर वो इक्विटी होल्डर होते, इक्विटी शेयर्स उनके पास होते, तो दे विल बी द पार्ट ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट एंड दे विल बी द शेयर होल्डर्स ऑफ द कंपनी. In that case, they are going to share the profit. Next is debt holder do not have voting right. Debt holder को voting right नहीं होता है, तो एक ownership वाला जो problem होती है कि then they are going to share the ownership. They are having the voting right that they can disrupt the or they can disturb the management of the company. In that case, they don't have such type of right. That's why the business who are having enough earning sources, who are doing exceptionally well, they are more interested in issuing debt or taking debt. Now next is cost of retained earning. Now what is cost of retained earning? Retained earning means it is one of the source of finance for investment proposal. It is different from other source. Okay, retained earning एक बहुत ही vital important source माना जाता है finance का अपने investment proposals को finance करने का, because it is an internal source of finance. तो internal source of finance है, ये totally different है आपके debt, equity, preferential, इन सबसे बिल्कुल अलग है. Because cost of retained earning is the same as the cost of an equivalent fully subscripted issue of additional shares. Cost of equity shares की तरह ही ये है. Cost of retained earning का, cost of retained earning में क्या है कि आपका जो source है वो आपका profit का part है. ये आपने profit को retain करके रखा होगा, तो वो आपकी earning है जो आपके profit का ही part है. इसलिए ये internal source of financing है. और इसकी क्या कॉस्ट होती है? इसकी कॉस्ट होती है कॉस्ट ऑफ रिटेन्ड अर्निंग कैन बी कैलकुलेटेड एज KR equal to K 1 minus T 1 minus B. This is the formula for calculating cost of retained earning, where KR equal to cost of retained earning, K equal to cost of equity, T equal to tax rate, B equal to brokerage cost. Okay. Next is what are the advantage of cost of retained earning? Retained earning are easily available internally because it is a part of internal source. तो हमें internally available हो जाती है. We do not have to put extra efforts for arranging such type of funds. बाहर हमें जाने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती, हमें investors ढूंढने नहीं पड़ते क्योंकि हमारे पास already available है, तो we can use it. It eliminate issue and transportation cost. We are assuming that while arranging funds in the form of retained earning, हम retained earning जब arrange करते हैं तो we can eliminate these type of expenses like transaction cost. Next is no dilution of control. That is very important because no one is interested to dilute their ownership. That's why the shareholders, stakeholders are more interested in getting the source of funding in the form of retained earning because there is no dilution of control. Next one is disadvantage. Everything which is having advantage will always have some disadvantage. So the disadvantage of retained earning is amount that can be raised by way of retained earning is limited. Means जितना amount आप retained earning का raise कर सकते हैं वो एक limited है, क्योंकि ये retained earning आपके profit का ही part है और आपने जो उसे इकट्ठा किया होगा वो एक परसेंटेज के अकॉर्डिंग आपने इकट्ठा किया होगा और इस प्रॉफिट को आप बाद में बहुत सारी चीजों के लिए भी यूज करते हैं. दैट इज द बेस ऑफ योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कि आपकी स्मूथनेस को आपकी बेस की बॉन्डिंग है, तो वो अमाउंट आप एक लिमिट तक ही रेज कर सकते हैं. आप एक अनलिमिटेड लेवल तक उसे रेज नहीं कर सकते. लेकिन अगर आप अपने शेयर या डेब्ट या और सोर्स ऑफ फंडिंग यूज करते हैं तो यू कैन अरेंज द फंड्स अकॉर्डिंग टू योर ओन रिक्वायरमेंट. इसमें थोड़ा सा आप एक्सटेंड भी कर सकते हैं बिकॉज द सोर्स इज नॉट लिमिटेड. यू आर टेकिंग द फंड फ्रॉम सो मेनी डिफरेंट सोर्सेज. दैट्स व्हाई यू कैन एक्सटेंड द लिमिट. आप वहाँ पे आपकी लिमिट बढ़ जाती है ऑटोमेटिकली क्योंकि आपका डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ सोर्सेज आपके पास है. तो वहाँ से आप अलग अलग सोर्सेज से आप इकट्ठा करेंगे. लेकिन अगर आप रिटेन अर्निंग में ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टेड है सो इन दैट केस दैट इज लिमिटेड टू सम एक्सटेंट. दैट्स व्हाई दे आर सेइंग दैट amount that can be raised by the retained earning is limited. Next is opportunity cost is quite high. And this the opportunity cost is quite high. And now what is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost means the cost that is associated with the option that we are leaving. वो ऑप्शन जो हम छोड़ के दूसरा ऑप्शन ले रहे हैं तो वो कॉस्ट जो हमने जो चीज सेक्रीफाइस की है उसकी भी एक कॉस्ट होती है. तो वो एक अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट है. दैट इज वेरी हाई इन दिस केस. सो वी आर सेइंग दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट इज वेरी हाई. So that is related to the retained earning. So in this chapter, in this these PPTs, we are talking about the cost of capital. And cost of capital, as I already discussed, that cost of capital are having different sources like cost of equity. So many different sources which are having in the form of fund. जितने हमारे पास fund के sources हैं, उस पर जितनी cost हमें देनी पड़ती है वो cost है. और उनमें सबसे reliable cost क्या होगी वो कंपनी टू कंपनी डिफर करती है, मैटर करती है बहुत सारी चीज़ों पे. जैसे अगर आप एक ऐसी कंपनी को लेते हो जो सीजनल बिजनेस करते हैं तो वो कभी भी ऐसे फंड को नहीं लेना, ऐसे सोर्स को नहीं एक्सेप्ट करेंगे जिसमें उनकी जो ऑब्लिगेशन लायबिलिटी है वो बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ जाए. उनका जो ऑब्लिगेशन है कॉस्ट का, जैसे इंटरेस्ट उन्हें रेगुलरली पे करना पड़ रहा है, वो ऐसे सोर्स नहीं एक्सेप्ट करेंगे. आप किस तरह के सोर्स और कितनी कॉस्टिंग बियर कर सकते हैं दैट इज टोटली डिपेंड्स अपॉन द फाइनेंशियल कंडीशन ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. और ये कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल आपके एक ऑप्टिमल कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर को फॉर्म करने में एक बहुत बड़ा रेलेवेंट रोल प्ले करते हैं. अब मान लिया आपको अपनी कंपनी के कैपिटल को डिसाइड करना है कि हाउ मच इफ यू नीड ₹50 lakh. in that case you have to consider first of all you have to consider all the things whether how we are going to arrange the funds, how we are going to collect the money. आप कैसे वो 50 लाख अरेंज करेंगे. और उस 50 लाख को अरेंज करना मेन बात नहीं है. Why we are studying this in financial management? We are studying this because there is no issue in arranging the fund. आप बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, आपके पास सोर्सेज होंगे या आप सोर्सेज अरेंज कर सकते हैं. यहाँ पे कंसर्न ये है we want to do the things by using the financial resources in an optimum way. तो हमें ये डिसाइड करना है इसके अकॉर्डिंग कि हमारे लिए कौन सा बेस्ट ऑप्शन है, हमारे बिजनेस को कौन सा ऑप्शन सूट करता है. क्या हमारे लिए सोर्स ऑफ फंडिंग में जो हमने पैसा लिया उसके लिए इक्विटी शेयर्स एज अ सोर्स बेटर है, या प्रेफरेंशियल को हमें ऑप्ट करना चाहिए, या हमें रिटेन अर्निंग को ऑप्ट करना चाहिए, या डेप्थ को, या हमें डिबेंचर इशू करने चाहिए. ये कंपनी टू कंपनी वेरी करता है. और ये हम डिसाइड करते हैं सिर्फ तब हमें ये पता होता है कि किसके हमारे ऑप्शन पे कितना कॉस्ट है. अगर हमें ऑप्टिमल कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर बनाना है सो वी हैव टू कंसीडर द कॉस्ट फर्स्ट, एंड आफ्टर दैट वी हैव टू डिसाइड द नेचर ऑफ बिजनेस व्हिच वी आर डूइंग. एंड व्हेन यू आर गोइंग टू एनालाइज दीज फैक्टर्स दैट दिस सोर्स विल सूट आवर बिजनेस इन अ प्रॉपर वे, उसके बाद ही आप ये डिसाइड कर सकते हो कि हमें इस ऑप्शन को लेना है या नहीं लेना. और कॉस्ट हमारी कितनी हम बियर कर पाएंगे ये सब चीजें हम तब देखते हैं. सो इन दिस केस वी हैव टू डिसाइड. So that is all about this lecture. We are going to discuss next topic in our next lecture.